Thanks for joining us today, everyone. It's Andrew from iDownload Blog here, taking a look at some new features inside of the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 7 Plus. And we're going to look exclusively at features that are just here for the 7 and 7 Plus and not anything related to the operating system or iOS, since that could very well come to many other phones. So specifically new features for the 7 and 7 Plus, starting with optical stabilization. First up, Apple introduced optical image stabilization on their camera in the 6 Plus and the 6S Plus a couple years ago. Now, optical image stabilization is standard on the 7 or the smaller model of the two phones. So both phones have that optical stabilization. Essentially, if you're not sure what it is, it allows the lens inside to move around a little bit. So if your hands are very jiggly and you're trying to take a photo or a video, which I'm kind of replicating here, when you go back to view it, it's able to compensate for that jiggling. So if you're in a car or on a boat or just have not very steady hands, the lens is able to account for a little bit of that movement and make your images and your videos a whole lot more stable. So I have gone ahead and taken a photo in a quick little 5 or 6 second video here. Now if we go back to my camera roll and I first look at my video, it's not perfect by any means, but the video itself is very smooth compared to how much my hands were actually shaking when I filmed it. Same thing applies to that photo. We go back and optical image stabilization works on live photos as well. So if I hold on to that, you can see even the photo and the live photo is smooth and the photo itself is crisp and clear. Moving on to our second feature, and that is the newly revamped home button. The home button was a huge source of failure, of hardware failure inside of iPhones. It was probably one of the biggest things that always needed repaired. Well, inside of the new iPhone, it is no longer an actual physical button. Instead, it is a kind of a sensor, and it will give you feedback using the Taptic engine on the inside, similar to how it works on the MacBook, on the new Retina MacBooks. The home button is very important because that's how you get into your phone. There is no longer a swipe to unlock. You have to press it to actually enter the phone. But it allows you to also customize the phone using 3 different levels of pressure sensitivity for that home button. You can go into settings and you can try out all the different ones that you like and choose the sensitivity and the clickiness essentially of that button. A lot of people tend to stick with number 2, but if you want it lighter or heavier, you have those options. So you can customize this phone to be more how you would like it to be. One big problem, however, it doesn't really work too great with gloves. Number 3 is EarPods. So EarPods have been shipping with the phone for quite some time now, but they got a slight revamp this year because obviously that headphone jack is gone. Now those included buds that ship with your phone will actually be Lightning enabled earbuds instead, which means they are fully digital but don't really expect any new audio, better audio quality. They're the same old earbuds, they simply connect via the Lightning port instead. Alongside this, you do get a Lightning to 3.5mm headphone jack adapter if you do want to use some old headphones and not the ones that Apple ships with your phone. In the iPhone 7, Apple sticks with the same sizes and pixel density on their screens. However, they did make one change, and that is they are a whole lot brighter. Yes, they are now about 25% brighter than they have been in the past, which is not just great for looking at your phone, especially outside, but it works great for that Retina flash when you're taking selfies or dimly lit selfies. That screen can flash a whole lot more. IP67 rating. That's right, the new iPhone has an IP67 rating, which means it is waterproof and dustproof. It can withstand most dust pretty much completely. This is the highest rating you can have for dust. And as far as the waterproofing goes, it is rated to be submerged for 1 meter for 30 minutes. That means you can do things like taking the shower if you really wanted to, or it'll withstand a drop in the pool. However, while it is waterproofed, they do not recommend doing any of what I'm doing in this video, and in fact, waterproof is not actually covered under the warranty, so if there's water damage, you may be out of luck. To go alongside that new brighter screen is a new front-facing camera. The new camera has now been upgraded to be 7 megapixels, which means your selfies are going to look a whole lot better, especially when they are accompanied by that new Retina flash using that screen there. They're going to look a lot better and be a lot more clear for any posting that you may do. Small but welcomed improvement here, the speakers on the new iPhone are significantly louder. They're actually about 50% louder than they were in the last generation iPhone. So whether you're listening to music, listening to an alarm, or watching some great YouTube videos on your phone, they're going to be significantly louder than they were in the past. So here is a big one for all those users with the Plus model of the phone is dual cameras. So the iPhone 7 Plus has 2 cameras actually on the phone itself. So it has the standard new cameras that are 12 megapixels, 6-element lens, optical image stabilization. But alongside that camera, there's a whole second camera. That second camera allows for a lot of cool effects, but most importantly is 2x zoom. And that's optical zoom, which means it's done with the lens and not using just digital software. You're going to get incredibly sharp photos at that 2x zoom without having to do absolutely anything to the photo in degrading the quality. So a lot of really nice effects there as far as just zooming in on photos much more, but it's going to allow you to do some cool effects coming in a later software update, such as this kind of bokeh effect here that Apple uses for portrait modes. Allows you to keep your subject really focused and crisp, and allows the background to be slightly blurred and really kind of segment out or pull focus to your subject. It does that by using both cameras and creating like a 3D image map and then just applying a blur to the background and not your subjects. Not only are the new speakers louder than they have been in previous generation, there are now 2 of them. And it's not that bottom grill, not where the headphone jack used to be, that's a speaker. In fact, it is actually the earpiece at the top, which now acts as an actual speaker. So if you're listening to anything, like watching a video, like a great iDownload blog, YouTube video, it's really easy to now hear everything in stereo. So you have the speaker on the left through the actual earpiece, and on the right where it's coming out of that bottom grill. So they're going to be louder, and you'll have full stereo sound now coming through your new iPhone 7. Haptic Engine is the name that Apple's given their custom vibration motor inside of the iPhone. It's able to vibrate very specifically, and it does a lot of really cool things, and they have a new version of that haptic sensor here in the iPhone 7. Not only does it give you feedback when you're using the new home button, but there's a lot of cool different spots in the system where it'll give you kind of physical feedback. So if I'm moving something down a list, it'll actually click at me every time I move positions. It's similar to how it is on the new MacBooks when you're clicking the variable speed and fast forwarding in a video inside of QuickTime. But it's one of the very small little features that I absolutely love about the iPhone of meshing the software with the hardware. This is going to be really cool, especially as developers get their hands on it to add those nice little touches inside of their applications. 2 new colors. This may be an easy one, but yes, there are 2 new finishes for the iPhone, so it comes in 5 different finishes total. The old silver, gold, and rose gold, as well as a new black, which is this matte color you're seeing here, and a jet black, which is the glossy version. Now, the glossy jet black version has been very hard to come by, but the matte black version has seemed to be the more popular of the 2 new finishes. It's very nice, can hold up very well to scratches and stuff like it has in the past, but the glossy version has been known to have some small micro abrasions as time goes on. But really, that's a little bit overblown. They're very small, and you don't really notice them because of that high gloss finish. Anything with a high gloss finish is going to pick up some tiny little scuffs, but it's not too much of a big deal from what I've seen from the people who already have them. Battery life has been improved in the iPhone 7. It is now the longest ever battery life for an iPhone. Compared to last generation, the 6S and the 6S Plus, the iPhone 7 will get 2 more hours of battery life than the iPhone 6, and the iPhone 7 Plus will get about 1 hour more battery life than the iPhone 6S Plus. So it's not a huge breakthrough, but it is quite a bit more than it was on the last generations, making it again the longest battery life ever to be inside of an iPhone. It may not compete completely with all of the fancy Droid phones out there, but for an iPhone user, it's a welcomed improvement. Performance had a big boost inside of the iPhone 7, and one of those features is the RAM. Now in the iPhone 7, there is still just 2 gigs of RAM, not a difference. But in the iPhone 7 Plus, it has now been bumped up to 3 gigs of RAM. And there's a lot of really nice benefits to this, but a lot of it has to do also with the new processor. You can see here just jumping in between different pages in the browser. I have tons of pages open. I have other applications opening, the 3D maps in the background, but I can easily jump between all of these different pages inside of the browser, and none of them have to reload. It's able to store all of those in memory and have no issue in pulling up those pages time and time again without having just annoyingly reload. Zoom. We talked about those fancy new dual cameras on the iPhone 7 Plus, and another benefit of those cameras is enhanced digital zoom. Again, this will be reserved for the iPhone 7 Plus, but utilizing those two dual cameras and that 2x telescopic lens camera, you can actually now digitally zoom up to 10x into photos. The iPhone 7, the smaller model, can still only zoom up to 5x, which is what you could on the 6S and before, but on the bigger of the 7 models, you can now zoom up to 10x, which is really great. It's going to look a whole lot clearer when you're zooming in that much. True Tone Flash. The flash has been upgraded on the iPhone 7. It is now a quad LED True Tone Flash, which means it's also going to be 50% brighter. It's a little bit hard to tell when you compare it to the last generation, but there are 4 LEDs in there compared to just the 2 on the top and bottom on the last generation. Of course, there are 2 different tones of those LED to help produce better skin effects when you're actually taking photos, and everything should look more true to life than it would with just a flat flash. A wider 1.8 aperture. That means the sensor itself has a slightly larger opening, which means more light is getting onto the sensor. So not only is that going to do a lot better photos for at night, so any dark photos, but it'll have slightly blurrier backgrounds compared to the last generation, which is a good thing. And it allows you just to have more light hitting the sensor, more clear photos, especially in low light situations. A10 Fusion processor. So Apple has a custom designed processor in their iPhones, and last year was the A9, and here's the A10. But this year it is a 4-core CPU with 2 high-performance cores and 2 low-performance cores. It's able to just jump between those, and when it's in high-performance mode, it's actually 40% faster than the A9 inside of the iPhone 6S. But because it can also jump to those lower processors, it can actually save battery life. So it can use 2 high, 2 low performance, or 1 of each, depending on the battery situation. Storage is a huge thing for most people because a lot of people would buy the standard edition, the lowest end model of the iPhone, which means you'd be limited to 16 gigs of storage, which anymore is just not cutting it. Well, Apple has heard our pleas, and now in the iPhone 7, all storage capacities are doubled. That means no longer do you get a 16 gig phone for the bottom price. You now start off with a 32 gig phone. You can then jump up to a 128 gig phone, or on the high end is a 256. So all storage capacities have been doubled, no longer 16, 64, 128, now 32, 128, and 256. A wider color gamut has been brought to Apple's Retina displays in the iPhone 7, which means more spectrum of color can be used to make up an image. So whether you're looking at your photos or something online, everything you see on your display is going to be a truer representation of what it is in real life. Those cinema standard colors combined with Apple's best-in-class color management means everything on your screen is going to look more vivid than it ever has in the past. And last on our list is cellular. There have been some improvements in cellular here, making your iPhone the fastest than it's ever been. The iPhone 7 features LTE Advanced, which means it can handle speeds up to 450 megabits per second. And that's going to be 50% faster than it was on the iPhone 6S and 6S Plus, and 3 times faster than it was on the iPhone 6. Of course, you do need carrier support to get those amazing speeds. You need to have the carrier support it and in your specific location to actually get those numbers. Now that is it. That is 20 brand new top features for the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 7 Plus. There are a few that we left out, and if you have any questions or other features that you want to talk about, let us know down in the comments below. Make sure you check out all of our other videos for other in-depth coverage on the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. Please go ahead and subscribe, and until next time, it's Andrew for iDownload Blog.